Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I see that you guys can hear me. It is your girl, Pastor Courage Molina, of Bold Faith Community Church, and this is our daily Bible reading. This is day 35, the Chronological Bible Reading Plan, where we are reading the Bible Monday through Friday, 7 a.m., just getting in the Word of God. Hey, Laverta. And so today we are starting with chapter 16. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. If you love the Bible reading, go ahead and click the like button. Be sure to drop something in the chat. Let us know that you were here. If you'd like to connect with us, you can check us out on our website, Bold Faith, I can't spell, church.org. Check us out. Check us out. All right, chapter 16. Then the whole community of Israel set out from Elim and journeyed into the wilderness of Sin between Elim and Mount Sinai. They arrived there on the 15th day of the second month, 1 month after leaving the land of Egypt. There, too, the whole community of Israel complained about Moses and Aaron. These people that brought them out, they complaining. I ain't gonna start. If only the Lord had killed us back in Egypt, they moaned. There we sat around pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted. But now you have brought us into this wilderness to starve us all to death. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Look, I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you. Each day the people can go out and pick up as much food as they need for that day. I will test them in this to see whether or not they will follow my instructions. On the sixth day, they will gather food, and when they prepare it, there will be twice as much as usual." So Moses and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, "By evening you will realize it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. In the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your complaints, which are against him, not against us. What have we done? What have we done that you should complain about us?" Then Moses added, "The Lord will give you meat to eat in the evening and bread to satisfy you in the morning, for he has heard all your complaints against him. What have we done? Yes, your complaints are against the Lord, not against us." Then Moses said to Aaron, "Announce this to the entire community of Israel. Present yourselves before the Lord, for he has heard your complaining." These are not requests, right? This is complaining. They are not requesting things from God. They are complaining. This is not prayer. This is pity party. This is whining. Okay? And as Aaron spoke to the whole community, for a second, 1 second, 1 second. And so then I wonder how often we go to the Lord calling it prayer when really it's complaining. I think I was just complaining this morning and not praying. I mean, it was accompanied by tears, but I don't think that tears make it prayer now that I'm reading this right now. I think that my prayer time this morning was not actually prayer, it was more complaining. And so I wonder how often we do that. I mean, if I hadn't read this right here, I probably wouldn't have thought about it. I just, I got my music on, I'm saying my words, crying, but I think it's more complaining. Good morning. I wonder how often that happens, how often we go to God and it's not a prayer, but we think it's prayer. That could be why things aren't moving. That could be why things aren't going or you don't get the peace because it's not prayer. It's just a complaint session to the Lord with the worship music as your backdrop. Maybe that's just me today. Not y'all, just me. Okay, cool. It's just me. It's all right. Verse 10. And as Aaron spoke to the whole community of Israel, they looked out toward the wilderness. There they could see the awesome glory of the Lord in the cloud. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I have heard the Israelites' complaints. Now tell them, in the evening you will have meat to eat, and in the morning you will have all the bread you want. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God." That evening, vast numbers of quail flew in and covered the camp, and the next morning the area around the camp was wet with dew. When the dew evaporated, a flaky substance as fine as frost blanketed the ground. The Israelites were puzzled when they saw it. What is it? They asked each other. They had no idea what it was. And Moses told them, it is the food the Lord has given you to eat. These are the Lord's instructions. Each household should gather as much as it needs. Pick up 2 quarts for each person in your tent. So the people of Israel did as they were told. Some gathered a lot, some only a little. But when they measured it out, everyone had just enough. Those who gathered a lot had nothing left over, and those who gathered only a little had enough. Each family had just what it needed. Then Moses told them, do not keep any of it until morning. But some of them didn't listen and kept some of it until morning. But by then it was full of maggots and had a terrible smell. Moses was very angry with them. After this, the people gathered the food by morning. They gathered the food morning by morning, each family according to its need. And as the sun became hot, the flakes they had not picked up melted and disappeared. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much as usual, 4 quarts for each person instead of two. Then all the leaders of the community came and asked Moses for an explanation. He told them, this is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest, a holy Sabbath day set apart for the Lord. So bake or boil as much as you want today and set aside what is left for tomorrow. So they put some aside until morning, just as Moses had commanded. And in the morning, the leftover food was wholesome and good, without maggots or odor. Moses said, eat this food today, for today is a Sabbath day dedicated to the Lord. There will be no food on the ground today. You may gather the food for 6 days, but the seventh day is the Sabbath. There will be no food on the ground that day. Some of the people went out anyway on the seventh day, but they found no food. The Lord asked Moses, how long will these people refuse to obey my commands and instructions? They must realize that the Sabbath is the Lord's gift to you. That is why he gives you a 2 day supply on the 6th day, so there will be enough for 2 days. On the Sabbath day, you must each stay in your place. Do not go out to pick up food on the seventh day. So the people did not gather any food on the seventh day. The Israelites called the food manna. It was white like coriander seed and it tasted like honey wafers. Then Moses said, this is what the Lord has commanded. Fill a 2 quart container with manna to preserve it for your descendants. Then later generations will be able to see the food I gave you in the wilderness when I set you free from Egypt. Moses said to Aaron, get a jar and fill it with 2 quarts of manna, then put it in a sacred place before the Lord to preserve it for all future generations. Aaron did just as the Lord had commanded Moses. He eventually placed it in the ark of the covenant in front of the stone tablets inscribed with the terms of the covenant. So the people of Israel ate manna for 40 years until they arrived at the land where they could settle. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. The container used to measure the manna was an omer, which was 1/10 of an ephah. It held about 2 quarts. Um, these are people who just came out of Egypt, and so they were slaves. They didn't have any days off. They had to work every day, all day. They had to work for the Egyptians, making bricks and things like that. And they were hardly they were under hard oppression. They were treated harshly. And then after whatever they did for the Egyptians, they had to go home and take care of things themselves. We know that they had livestock also. Why? Because when we saw the plagues, there was a distinction, where the animals and the livestock of the Egyptian died, but those that were in Goshen did not, right? So we know that the Israelites, even in Egypt, even as slaves, not only did they have work to do for the slave masters, the Egyptians, but they also had their own things and households to take care of. They worked every day. My guess is they had very long days, very little rest, if any at all. So now God is giving them a gift of rest. But when you are a workaholic, when you find your purpose in work, when you are running from spending time by yourself, when you are prone to busyness, then Sabbath can feel like punishment, right? The Sabbath can feel like a punishment. So I don't get to work today. I have to sit around and rest. The Sabbath also is a thing that tests our trust in God, right? We sometimes falsely believe that if we don't do the work, it's not going to get done or things are going to fall apart. Um, or I'm gonna fall behind, or I'm gonna miss my blessing. I sleep when I'm dead, and all of this hustle. I hustle every day, 7 days a week. Like all of that, that's not biblical. It's not it. It's a lack of trust. I don't trust that I can take a day off and I can still get done the things that God has called me to. It's an idol. Sometimes we worship work, sometimes we worship accomplishment, and any day that we don't get to accomplish something, right? We feel a way about it. And so, it makes sense that they would still, even though they had enough food, that they would still go out. The other thing that was crazy to me is that sometimes you have exactly what you need, all that you need, but it's a lack of trust. So you don't use it, right? You don't use the people that are there to help and support you to their full capacity. You don't use your skills to its full capacity. Even though you have enough. So it says that every family, whether they gathered a little bit or a lot, they had exactly what they needed. So if all I had in my home was exactly what I needed, and there were some in the morning that was spilled, that I saved, that spoiled and had maggots in it, what does that mean? It means that I had enough to satisfy what I needed, and I went with less than what I needed because I didn't trust that the Lord was going to provide for me the next day. I wonder how many of us do that. Um, or when your identity is finding your work, right? I was just talking about this with my little mentee. She said she has issues just resting and not constantly be doing something. Yeah. Excuse me. I think that's it's a social norm too. I don't There are not a lot of industries or spaces where there are not a lot of industries or spaces where that is encouraged. It's not encouraged even in school, right? So kids get up, they go to school, they do all this work in school, and then there's homework for them to do at home, right? There's work for them to do at home. And then they want to fill their time with social activities, volunteer activities, all of these things because they want to get into college, and then they get into college and they're doing all of these things because they want to get a good job with benefits, and then they don't use those benefits. America has some of the highest rate of like unused vacation time. Your vacation time rolls over. You don't take time off. Yeah, corporate America, shoot, even in education. I know as a public school teacher, it's like, okay, we get the summers off, but that's fake. It's a fake off because you are dealing with all the things you didn't get to deal with during the year. Your principal is calling you, believe it or not, needing you to come in, wanting you to come in for something. There are all these committees and things like that that you're on. You're doing your, what is it? Continue education credits. You're working another job because you don't make enough money. Yeah, I used to be like, why are y'all calling me during the summer? I don't work during the summer. So y'all calling me for what? Whatever we can start, I can start on the first day when we get back. But it took a long time for me to get there. And I was often odd man out. The expectation is that you are at the job late, that you're at the school late. They looking at you crazy if you are not on 13 different committees, if you're not coming to the games. These ain't my kids. I'm not about to be at every game. I'm not about to come to no game, real talk, unless I have a student that's really begging me to come. I'm not about to do it. No, these not my kids. My kids at the house, right? And taking work home, working over holidays, parents expecting it, teachers expecting it, like just that's how it is. That is the expectation that you are always available, always working. And so it does not support this idea of Sabbath. So I remember the first year I start taking all my days. The first year I took all my days, I had 20 days to take. And you usually only got 10 days, but I negotiated for an additional 10 days because I didn't have a planning period. See, not even a planning. I was supposed to have a planning period. 2 years I was at that school with no planning period, which is technically illegal, but happens all the time, right? So there's no planning period, right? And so I took all my days, and it was like Everybody was talking about it. The kids were talking about it. Other teachers were talking about it. Administration was talking about it. It was like, oh my gosh, you just because you got them don't mean you got to use them. What are you talking about? That's exactly what it means. I have these vacation days because somebody knows I'm gonna need vacation time that is not spring break. That is not like I'm gonna need vacation. Like somebody knows that. All those projects and things we give them to finish off before Christmas break. When do you think those things are getting graded? Over Christmas break. Those final exams that they're taking, right? Those exams they're taking right before spring break. How you think they're getting graded? When do you think they're getting graded? For all your classes over your spring break. That's when, you know what I'm saying? Like, hello, that's how it works. And when you refuse to do that, then you become odd man out. And so it's not easy to even it's crazy though, right? I think that when we think about being kingdom citizens and following God, I think we only think about like good and bad, right? Like good and evil things that we think are evil. We don't see not working. We don't see resting or refusing to rest. That's what I mean. We don't see refusing to rest as evil. But anything that lines itself up against the word of God or the way of God is that. There's not a lot of gray area in the word of God. It's good or it's evil. Right? So that's just kind of how the word works, y'all. Okay? I'm not trying to be extra. I just want y'all to understand this word. It's either good or it's evil. And taking a Sabbath rest is a gift and a commandment. So to not take Sabbath rest is to openly defy what the word of God tells us to do, the expectation that he has for kingdom citizens. People who are not children of the kingdom, they can work every day, all day, all they want to. But we the king's kids, so we take a day off. And guess what? Everything that was ours the day that we clocked out of work is going to be ours in 2 days when we come back, or the next day, or the day after you understand what I'm saying? It's still going to be ours. But I think that we don't see not resting as evil. But when you start to recognize that not taking the Sabbath is not just about time management, but it's sin, it's willful disobedience. And I don't know how we want to live in open defiance to what God says. I know it's not the thing that people ask. People want to know if you're having sex before marriage. People want to know if you are in a same-sex relationship. People want to know if you are cheating, if you are stealing, lying, and gossiping. They want to know if you are dressing promiscuously, what kind of music you're listening to, what types of things are you supporting. If you look at this or watch that, you operating on witchcraft. If you do this, that's what, like, everything is. This is what people want to know, right? When we're not talking about, are you taking a rest? Because I can't have you lead. We don't want you leading if you can't lead by example. But being a workaholic is not leading by example. Not taking a sabbatical is not leading by example. Not taking a day off is not leading by example. That you're not setting up I can't follow you as you follow Christ, because you ain't following Christ, because Christ took some time off. The disciples went out. I'm not preaching. I'm just supposed to be reading. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The disciples, he sent the disciples out on tour. They went out to do their tour duty, to do their missions trip and all of that. And when they got back, there were people waiting for them. People needed them. And he was like, y'all not about to help them. Y'all about to come over here and rest. He didn't say, well, the people here, and we don't want to turn people away from the church. He was like, okay, well, they here. They'll be all right. Y'all need to rest. Come and get something to eat. Come and sit down. Come and rest your nerves. We don't follow that example. Jesus got away by himself. We don't follow that example. We want to make ourselves available to people all the time because we worried about their feelings. But what about your faith? Right? Faith begets faith. And part of living out my faith is living according to the will and the way of God, because it's set up for me to win. It's not set up for me to not have fun and for me to whatever. It's set up like the whole is for me to win, because I was created for a purpose, because God created you for a purpose, and that purpose that he created you for, he wants you to accomplish that thing. It's the reason he made you the way he made you. He expects for us to be fruitful and multiply. And I can have more fruit and multiply if I sit myself down somewhere. Just saying, Chapter 17. I know I digress. Chapter 17. At the Lord's command, the whole community of Israel left the wilderness of sin and moved from place to place. Eventually, they camped. Maybe that's sign. And moved from place to place. Eventually, they camped at Rephidim, but there was no water there for the people to drink. This is the second time there hasn't been water. So once more, the people complained against Moses, which is crazy that they complained because they didn't have water before. Then they talked to the Lord and the Lord did something for them. So I'm not sure why complain and not just ask, but maybe that's what we do in general. I mean, I also probably complain and don't ask. The Lord is really getting me together in this Bible reading this morning. Jeez. Wow. Verse 2. So once more, the people complained against Moses. Give us water to drink, they demanded. Quiet, Moses replied. Why are you complaining against me? And why are you testing the Lord? But tormented by thirst, they continued to argue with Moses. Why did you bring us out of Egypt? Are you trying to kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst? Then Moses cried out to the Lord, what should I do with these people? They are ready to stone me. The Lord said to Moses, walk out in front of the people. Take your staff, the one you used when you struck the water of the Nile, and call some of the elders of Israel to join you. I will stand before you on the rock at Mount Sinai. Strike the rock, and water will come gushing out. Then the people will be able to drink. So Moses struck the rock as he was told, and water gushed out as the elders looked on. Moses named the place Massa, which means test, and Meribah, which means arguing, because the people of Israel argued with Moses and tested the Lord by saying, is the Lord here with us or not? Ooh, verse 8. While the people of Israel were still at Rephidim, the warriors of Amalek attacked them. Moses commanded Joshua. Here's Joshua, all the way back in Exodus. Moses commanded Joshua, choose some men to go out and fight the army of Amalek for us. Tomorrow, I will stand at the top of the hill, holding the staff of God in my hand. So Joshua did what Moses had commanded and fought the army of Amalek. Amalekites. Amalek? Meanwhile, Moses, Aaron, and Hur climbed to the top of a nearby hill. As long as Moses held up the staff in his hand, the Israelites had the advantage. But whenever he dropped his hand, the Amalekites gained the advantage. Moses' arms soon became so tired he could no longer hold them up. So Aaron and Hur found a stone for him to sit on. Then they stood on each side of Moses, holding up his hands. So his hands held steady until sunset. As a result, Joshua overwhelmed the army of Amalek in battle. After the victory, the Lord instructed Moses, write this down on a scroll as a permanent reminder and read it aloud to Joshua. I will erase the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Moses built an altar there and named it Yahweh Nisi, which means the Lord is my banner. He said, they have raised their fists against the Lord's throne. So now the Lord will be at war with Amalek generation after generation. Oh, that's so good. It's just all so good. Chapter 18. I gotta keep reading. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, heard about everything God had done for Moses and his people, the Israelites. He heard especially about how the Lord had rescued them from Egypt. Earlier, Moses had sent his wife Zipporah and his two sons back to Jethro, who had taken them in. Moses' first son was named Gershom, for Moses had said, when the boy was born, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land. His second son was named Eleazar, Elizar. For Moses had said, the God of my ancestors was my helper. He rescued me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came to visit Moses in the wilderness. He brought Moses' wife and two sons with him, and they arrived while Moses and the people were camped near the mountain of God. Jethro had sent a message to Moses saying, I, Jethro, your father-in-law, am coming to see you with your wife and your two sons. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed low and kissed him. They asked about each other's welfare and then went into Moses' tent. Moses told his father-in-law everything the Lord had done to Pharaoh in Egypt on behalf of Israel. He also told about all the hardships they had experienced along the way and how the Lord had rescued his people from all their troubles. Jethro was delighted when he heard about all the good things the Lord had done for Israel as he rescued them from the hand of the Egyptians. Praise the Lord, Jethro said, for he has rescued you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Yes, he has rescued Israel from the powerful hand of Egypt. I know now that the Lord is greater than all other gods because he rescued his people from the oppression of the proud Egyptians. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. Aaron and all the elders of Israel came out and joined him in a sacrificial meal in God's presence. This is almost like, because I'm going to read the rest. Jethro, the father-in-law, believed that God was amazing and great, not because he was a witness to what he did for the children of Israel, but because Moses shared it. And for the record, Moses, which we can see, did not just share the triumph. He did not just share the win. That's the problem. You want people to know how good God is, so you only share the win. You just sharing, I'm no longer depressed. I no longer have anxiety. My mind is free. I feel good. My money's right. My marriage is going well. My health and all of that. But he believed not just because he told him about the victories, he told him about the struggle. He told them not just the struggle, right? Because that doesn't paint an accurate picture either. He told him how bad it was. This is what we did. This is how bad it was. We did this and they did this to us. Woo, but the Lord came through and did a thing, right? He's not glossing over. He knows that God is good because Moses shared with him the victories, how great the battles were, what the frustrations, the pains, the challenges, and the obstacles were. You want somebody to believe that God can do something in marriages, but you never want to talk about how bad it got. You don't want to talk about the adultery. You don't want to talk about the fighting. You don't want to talk about the Cold War. You don't want to talk about the neglect. You just want to say, well, we had some trouble and the Lord helped us. That's cool, but that's not as helpful as you think. And I ain't saying you got to tell everybody your business. I'm just saying if we are going to share a testimony about what God is doing, not just I had a difficult season, I wanted to end my own life. I need you to understand how bad it was. I want you to understand I'm in a bathroom. I want you to understand I'm on the street looking for a car to walk in front of. Like, I need you to understand how bad it got. So that when you look at who I am today, you understand how good God is. Right? Everything's not meant to be shared. Everything's not meant to be shared, and that's cool. But there's some message, something that you got through that God didn't just bring you through it so he could bring you through it. You understand what I'm saying? So just kind of keep that in mind. Verse 13, the next day Moses took his seat to hear the people's disputes against each other. They waited before him from morning till evening. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he asked, "What are you really accomplishing here? Why are you trying to do all this alone?" Well, everyone stands around you from morning till evening. Moses replied, "Because the people come to me to get a ruling from God. When a dispute arises, they come to me, and I'm the one who settles the case between the quarreling parties. I inform the people of God's decrees and give them his instructions." "This is not good," Moses' father-in-law exclaimed. "You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Now listen to me and let me give you a word of advice, and may God be with you. You should continue to be the people's representative before God, bringing their disputes to you. Teach them God's decrees and give them his instruction. Show them how to conduct their lives, but select from all the people some capable, honest men who fear God and hate bribes. Appoint them as leaders over groups of 1,150 and 10. Then They should always be available to solve the people's common disputes, but have them bring the major cases to you. Let the leaders decide, wow, the smaller matters themselves. They will help you carry the load, making the task easier for you. It's so hard to read this. It's so hard to read this because my mind is going right now. Like, wow, if you follow this advice and if God commands you to do so, then you will be able to endure the pressures and all these people will go home in peace. Moses listened to his father-in-law's advice and followed his suggestions. He chose capable men from all over Israel and appointed them as leaders over the people. He put them in charge of groups of 1,150 and 10. These men were always available to solve the people's common disputes. They brought the major cases to Moses, but they took care of the smaller matters themselves. Soon after this, Moses said goodbye to his father-in-law, who returned to his own land. This is so good, 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 and good. Like, what? This is a whole system. There are 12 people watching. If you like this video, like this video. Um, this is a system. I think it's so funny how far we get, how far away from biblical, like the biblical setup we get. I think it's so crazy how far we get and we call it righteous and right and godly. I just think it just blows my mind. So while he's not setting up the church, right, he is setting up a way to live in community and manage conflict, right? So if a person and manage problems. If somebody's having a problem, they're not bringing it all. So what is Moses the leader to do? Moses the leader is to teach all the people the decrees and how to live according to God. Then he's to select men and allow them, place them over people. These the first small groups right here. These the first life groups. I mean, this is the life group set up if I ever saw one. This is a system. This is a system of ministry. I get it's not the church, like I not miss me with that, but this is a system of ministry that if I ever saw one, where somebody is the head and that is the person who is making decisions and hears from God about major things, but that person is also responsible with teaching the leaders, and then those leaders have people that are under them, and then it's broken down 10 people. So if I'm one person in charge of 10 people or helping 10 people, that to me sounds like a life group leader. If I'm one person in charge of 50 people, it sounds like the person who is supporting other life group leaders who then break down. If I'm over here, it seems like the person who is supporting the people who support life group leaders. Y'all see how the word will give you an entire like strategy for your life right now, present day. Now, if I don't go back and write this strategy down today, my name is not Pastor Courage Molina. Come into the word. Like, you trying to delegate, you have a system, and not being worried about how other people think it should be. Because when you don't do it this way, you get burnt out. Who experienced burnout last year? This pastor. For months. My therapist kept saying, you're not over this part. You think you're over the burnout just because you want to be over the burnout. She's like, you're not. You need to rest. I'm like, I can't rest anymore. I'm tired of resting, girl. I'm trying to get back to my old me. She was like, you're not going to get there without rest. Who suffered burnout? I did. I suffered burnout. I suffer burn. Maybe it's because the mind is going all the time, and it's like that you need support for stuff. Get a support system. This is what this is. And not only is the leader burnt out, but the people aren't served. That's what Jethro's telling him. Not only are you going to wear yourself out, the people going to be worn out waiting around for you. Because you only one person. You need to choose capable leaders, train them. Oh, that was so good to me. Oh, the church about to do something. The church about to get yelling, about to get organized. Come on, look at it, God. All right, I love y'all. This is so good. Like just reading it is so good. It makes me want to slow down and study. Listen, if you don't have a church home, we'd love to have you at Bold Faith Community Church. We are here Saturdays at 8 a.m. live streaming, followed immediately by life groups where we get into a group and we talk about the sermon. So it's a sermon series. Life group, we talk about the word that was just given right before the group. Yeah, I probably should tell you something else. Oh, I ain't got time. We have a retreat, y'all, but I ain't got time to talk about retreat. I gotta go. I love y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Make sure y'all are following Bold Faith on Instagram and on YouTube and on Facebook, Bold Faith Community Church. We have a page everywhere. We have a page on Instagram, so it's at Bold Faith Church. So check us out. Be sure to connect with us so you can hear about all the things that are going on. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here. Same bat time, same bat station, 7 a.m. Love y'all. Thank y'all for listening.